Life Audio.
Hello, and welcome to the Confessions of a Christian Alcoholic podcast. I am your host, John Seidel. This is your home for real stories, radical vulnerability, and remarkable comebacks. In the end, this podcast is a place for the desperate, the downtrodden, the destitute, and especially the drunk. But it's also a place of hope and healing. I know that firsthand because I'm the Christian who became an alcoholic, not the other way around. Today, I've found sobriety after decades of struggling. But more importantly than finding sobriety, I found Jesus. My prayer is that as I interview people just like you and just like me, along with professionals in the fields of trauma, faith, and addiction recovery, you will find the peace that is available to you through Christ on the other side of whatever you're going through and whatever addiction that might be. Because let's face it, we're all addicted to something. So welcome. Let's get radically vulnerable as we explore what it looks like to be on this journey of messy sanctification. We'll be right back after this. Have you lost hope? Like, it may seem like a trite or simple question, but I think when I look back at my own addiction story, that a lot of what I was trying to drink away was a hopelessness. There were a lot of lies that were whispered to me by the devil, and during that severe slide period, I think one of the things that was a constant companion, and not a good one, was a lack of hope. I don't see this getting better. I don't see how I can fill in the blank. I don't see how or why or whatnot. And today's guest is going to bring us, I think, an infusion of hope. His name is Tanner Olson. He doesn't have an addiction story, but he has written a book, and he is one of the most gifted poets I have ever encountered. And that book is called Getting Through What You're Going Through. And I think what I so struggled with, and what you may struggle with, is we don't know how to get through what we're going through. And while hope in that term is thrown around a lot these days, when Tanner talks about hope, I think it has a weight to it, knowing what he has gone through. And he'll talk a little bit about that, the depression, the anxiety, the infertility. And so when he talks about clinging to hope, it comes from a deep well that he is drawing from. So I'm excited to introduce you to Tanner. He's going to read us a poem that I think is so relevant for so many of us in our stories, and really just give us that infusion of hope that we need just constantly, right? I mean, I think there are still feelings that I struggle with. Lord, I don't see how I'm coming out of this, in a good way. I don't see how you're going to work through this. I don't see how you're going to turn this around. And so Tanner's going to help us on that road. Just a reminder, you can still get Confessions of a Christian Alcoholic, the book that this podcast is based off of, for 30% off and free shipping from the publisher. Just go to christianalcoholic.com, christianalcoholic.com. If you want to watch this podcast, that is available to subscribers at theveritasdaily.com, theveritasdaily.com. Every single one of the podcast episodes you can watch there ad-free. So without further ado, let's talk with the wonderful, the talented Tanner Olson about hope. Tanner, thank you so much for joining the Confessions podcast. I'm excited for this. Least of all, but important of all, because you are a fellow Packer fan.
Yes.
And my wife just has a funny, she's going to listen to this and laugh because she says I just have a knack for finding fellow Packer fans, and you're not even a fellow Wisconsinite.
No.
But I mean, to be fair, there's a lot of Packer fans out there.
Yes.
It is. I travel a lot, and on Sundays, especially like flying all over the country, especially during the NFL season, it is like a sea of green every time I go to an airport. Doesn't matter what airport it is, but you always can find them. Yeah. And it's comforting to know. It's comforting to know that cheese has a good place in this world.
Amen. But you do have a connection to Wisconsin that I want to get into, and you posted something really beautifully recently. I think it was maybe part of the 2016 trend that's going on right now. And so I want to get into that. But before we kind of launch into your story and your new book that I am excited about, that I think is very relevant, even though you don't have a quote unquote addiction story, I think the hope that you offer for those of us who don't know how to sit with our thoughts and feelings, which is me and what led me into addiction, this book is really helpful for us. So, but before we get into that, just give us an overview of who you are, what you do, and where you are.
Yeah, just a guy who loves words and wants to spread hope. If you ask me what I do for a living, I tell you that I'm an author, a poet, and a speaker. I travel around the country and share poetry and stories and jokes at churches and schools and conferences and all the things, and talk about what it means to follow Jesus, to struggle with what it means to be a human being, clinging to hope. And I've been doing this for like 10 years now. I got a couple of books out. This new one that's coming out with Zondervan. And I live in Nashville with my wife, Sarah, our son, Judah, our dog, Pancake. And dude, just happy to be here and to be able to chat with you about all the things.
And I think your previous book was a children's book, right?
Yeah, I had released a children's book titled All the Things I Say to God. It's about a little girl who begins to pray all by herself. And it was so fun to write and to share. And I think that's really where I've landed in this career as a writer, is just offering things to the world that I think are helpful and hopeful, and can also bring up good conversations. At least I hope so with the children's book, but also with this new book, the book of poems and essays, that good conversation would come out of it, and people would know that they're invited to lean in just a little bit deeper, a little bit longer, you know?
Mm-hmm. So the new book is called Getting Through What You're Going Through. And I want to talk about that. And I think, what I always pride this podcast on is that it is about going deeper, right? Radical vulnerability. And so to that end, you posted this picture in 2016. You were working at a children's youth camp, right? In Wisconsin, where you lived for 7 years. And like, if I'm not mistaken, like Northwoods of Wisconsin, which is like...
Dude, it was up there. Like, it was so... The camp is called Camp Luther in Three Lakes, Wisconsin. Beautiful, beautiful camp, beautiful place, wonderful people. I'm from Orlando. So it's a very different, like Wisconsin and Florida have pretty much nothing in common. But I was up there. I was living alone in a duplex all by myself in the woods. Like, it was lonely,
cold.
It was tiring, freezing. It was like the two like coldest winters when I was up there too. So man, it was a wonderful job. It just wasn't the right fit or place for me, and I wanted to be a writer.
And so take us to that, because I think in a sense it really sets up the book well, is that you're struggling. You're like, Lord, and I think there's so many people who are going to be listening to this who's like, Lord, you've put something on my heart. Maybe you've dripped out some things for me, and you tell this story in this Instagram post about you just getting up every day early to write, and yet it's not going anywhere. Take us to that point in time and describe what you were going through.
Yeah, I was 23, 24, 25. Like, I just kind of out of college, finally realized that I wanted to be a writer. And this was like in the early years of Instagram and social media and all that kind of stuff. So you're seeing other people who are writing books, who are living the life that you want to live. Like, where I was not where I wanted to be. There was a lot of wrestling, a lot of loneliness, a lot of depression, a lot of, like, really honestly just trying to get through what I was going through. And so I was up in northern Wisconsin. I lived in Wisconsin for 7 years, in northern Wisconsin for about 3. And towards the end of my time up there, I just spent morning and evening walking in the woods, the trails of this camp, just praying and talking to God, asking him to meet me where I was, but to also bring me into something new, into something different. Like I was ready for what was next. I needed something new, a change of scenery, because who I was not who I wanted to be. Who I was becoming was not the person that I wanted to become. And so eventually beginning of 2016, I packed up and I moved to Nashville. And I moved to Nashville for 2 reasons. One, to see about a girl. We are married now. She was right next to me as I'm talking. And then 2, it was to be a writer, like to give this whole writing thing a shot. But I will forever be thankful for my time, even the time that I would not wish on anybody, the darkness, the loneliness, because it shaped me.
Mm-hmm.
It showed me what true hope really was. I mean, you know what rock bottom feels like.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want that, and yet it becomes this gift, this teacher, if you let it.
I think there's people listening to this who maybe they get that, but maybe they don't, right? Or they don't, or they're like, yeah, it's great when you're 10 years removed from it, but you don't understand, or maybe you've forgotten what it feels like when you don't, when you don't want to live anymore, right?
Yeah.
And when you're like, I just want to not wake up, right? And so I guess my first question would be, when did you start gaining that perspective of like, I can be thankful for this? And what did that take for you?
Took a lot of space and time. It wasn't, for me, it was not this overnight flip a switch and now I'm trusting and believing that everything is going to be great. It took a lot of doing the same thing over and over again, developing this practice of walking and talking with God and looking for the light. Like hope is something that you practice, right? Like you show up again and again, clinging to the promises that you're not forgotten, that God has not lost you in all of this. And something that I've been telling myself for a long time now is that something more is happening than I can see. Like none of this is wasted. And yet we live in this rough, broken world where it is full of pain and addiction and darkness and loss and days where you're just like, I don't want to do this anymore, man.
Right.
Like, and especially when it is cold and dark and lonely and you are in Wisconsin and thousands of miles away from your family, it was tough. So if anybody's listening who's like that's exactly where I am, like I can say like I have been there before and it can get better. But change does have to happen. Like it would not have gotten better if I was like, well, I'll just ride this out. Like I had to get up off the couch. I had to go for walks. I had to spend time in prayer. I had to choose time with God over time on Instagram. You had to make all these changes and these shifts, and then believe that the depth of the truth that you are actually loved. You're actually seen in this.
You talked about leaving Wisconsin, going to Nashville and kind of making that decision. What went into that for you? I think, I just wonder if there's people listening, and on one hand, and this is where I think wisdom and discernment comes in. Like the Bible talks about long suffering, right? And it talks about the Lord's going to work all things together for the good of those who love him and call them to a purpose. And there are some seasons in your life where you are called to endure, right? And then there are seasons in your life, in the epilogue of my book, I talk about Gideon, and like where it's just like, go in the strength you have, right? The Lord is calling you to move. The Lord is calling you to do something. He's calling you to take that step. I just started a nonprofit, right? Never saw that coming. And I'm like, Lord, I'm not equipped to do this. And he's like, just go in the strength you have, right?
Yep.
And so how did you finally make the decision that, okay, this era of maybe long suffering, is maybe not over, but it's given way to this area or this era of movement.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the big things for me was the conversations that I was having with my friends. I mean, to have the importance of having people around you who can speak hard truth into your life, it matters. I remember my best friend Trevor, I told him, I was like, this is what I'm going through. And he's like, you got to make a change. And like, you don't really want to hear that. Because that means that there's going to be a lot of work, a lot more unknown, a lot of different, a lot of new, and all of that scared me. All of that brought on like a weight of anxiety. And yet in my time walking in the woods and praying, it just became more and more evident and obvious that it was time for me to step away from this and into something new. And that new thing was to head to Nashville. There's a lot in this life where we just can't explain it, and yet something deep in us just like knows that this is the pull, that this is the invitation to go. And so, yeah, I listened to the voice of my friends, trusting that they were still going to be with me as I was facing the uncertainty. So I moved to Nashville, and my whole plan was that I was going to be a writer. I was like, this is it. Like, I'm out of the camp world. I'm going to show up to Nashville. I was like, my idea was I was going to get a job at a coffee shop, and I was going to write in the mornings and the evenings and on my coffee break. And then one day, like a literary agent would walk in and just be like, you want to write a book, don't you? And I would say yes. And they would give me all of my dreams, and it would unlock, and it'd be perfect. And it didn't happen that way. Thankfully, like, I ended up not getting a job at a coffee shop. I struggled to write. I had to get a job at Chick-fil-A. That was super hard. I was 25, 26 years old working at a Chick-fil-A, wanting to be a writer, struggling through that season. And yet it all mattered. Like, none of this it's not wasted. And I know that when you look back at your past, like, none of it is wasted. Like, some of this can be used. Most of this can be used for good or to point people towards hope. Like, if all of my dreams had just come true, like, what does that do for my faith? What kind of writer or man or husband or father does that make me?
Yeah.
Like, there's no pushback. There's no challenge. There's no grit. And if you want to keep going, you kind of need to go through that.
It's one of the things that I think drips through in your writing is that you've been there, right? Mm-hmm. And I think in an era where experientialism, not experiencing God, I'm all about experiencing God, and I talk about that in my book, in Abiding in Christ, but experientialism, where you make the experience your God, right? Mm-hmm. Not the God behind the experience. You have this ability to just you post these really short poems on Substack. Mm-hmm. And it's like 10 words, and man, there's just so much depth and richness to them that you can say, like, you've been through it. You've been through the refiner's fire. And it's what I appreciate about you so much. I'm curious, and it looks like I don't know if you have a poem there in front of you that you're gonna. Oh,
I was just writing down as you were talking. I was like, oh, this is a good. Yeah.
But was there in your story like a moment where it kind of turned and you're like, oh wow, now this is happening, or was it slow, or was it gradual? What did that look like for you in your story, where you're working at Chick-fil-A, right? And I think we all have our Chick-fil-A's. Right?
Yeah.
Man, I'm going to be honest with you. Lord told me to start this nonprofit. I'm like, what am I doing? I applied. I haven't told anyone this. I applied to Home Depot, Walmart, and Academy Sports, and got rejected by all three. You want to talk about like just towards the end of last year, right? I'm like, all right, Lord, you've called me to do this. I gotta do something in the meantime.
Yeah.
And people think, oh, you have a book come out, you're speaking, you're doing all this stuff. Like, the money is just pouring in. And I'm like, you want to, like, don't write a book if you want to be rich.
No.
And I'm like,
don't write a book of poetry if you want to be rich.
Yeah, right? So I'm like, oh, okay, Lord, maybe this act of humility and everything's going to change. And then like they all reject me. You're getting nothing against people that work at Walmart. I wanted to be one of them. And like Walmart rejects me, you know? So for me, it's this gradual, like, how do you go from Chick-fil-A to now you're going on a book tour, you know, tomorrow when this podcast releases. Was that just a gradual thing? What did that look like? We'll be right back after this.
Yeah, it was small, slow, faithful steps forward, back, to the side. There were moments in seasons of nothing happening at all. It would be people asking, "Are you still trying to be a writer? Are you still trying to be a poet?" You know, that those kind of conversations. It was me working full-time jobs. I worked at Chick-fil-A, and then I worked at a church down in Texas for a couple of years. And really, it was while I was working in Texas, just north of Austin. The pastor that I was working with, his name is Barrett. And about 2 years into my time down in Texas, I mean, I was still writing and putting stuff on Instagram and like trying to do speaking events or share poetry at schools and conferences. And like, I would say yes to everything. I would pay my way for everything. Like I was trying to do the best that I could with what I had. And I was trying to give this dream everything and not like walk away and think like, oh, there's nothing happening here. So my friend Barrett, he sits me down and he's like, "Hey, you know you can do this, right?" And I was like, this whole like, say you can do this whole writing, poetry, speaking thing. But he didn't just stop there. He was like, "You can do this and this, and I will introduce you to this person, and we can do this, and like you can start doing this for our church." And start like he was preparing me for what was next. And you need like in all the great stories, you need a guide. And so Barrett was this guide for me in this season who believed in me when I didn't really believe in myself. I was just kind of like drifting and trying to make sense of all of this stuff. And he was like, "Oh, there's like a way. Like I can see it from where I'm sitting, and I know that you can't see it because you're so close to it." And so it was these small steps. I mean, I was waking up at 4 a.m. to work for a couple of hours, writing really bad stuff that would eventually, hopefully, become somewhat decent. You know, trying to start podcasts, trying to be on podcasts, trying to book events at churches and schools. Like I was doing it. I was trying. I was just trying. And I think, you know, that's the thing that I share with those who are in this season of like, I want to be somewhere where I'm not. Like, I have this dream of being a writer. Like, what do I do? So, well, I hate to tell you just got to show up every day. You got to start again and again and again. And you got to push back against the lies and the comparison and just be like, okay, this is the thing that I was invited to do. One of the things that I was created to do. It's not going to go the way that you think it's going to go. It's not going to look the way that you want it to look, but it can still be good.
I'm glad you brought up that word lies. Because I'm curious, you know, I know there was a lot, you know, I released my first book in 2021, becomes a bestseller, top 100 on all of Amazon. Life is great, but it wasn't, right? Like I had expectations for that book. I got on this bestseller list, but not this one, this interview, but not this one, right? And the devil used that disappointment to really start whispering lies, you know, and things that went back to childhood wounds, right? That I had never fully given over to Jesus. And so I'm curious, what are those lies that you were believing in your life?
It's a good question. I love that we're talking about this so early in the day so I can think about it for the rest of the day. You know,
it's called Confessions. That's the podcast.
I think, you know, one of the big things, and it is still this on a different level in a different way is, not being good enough.
Yeah.
I think I just mentioned this on Substack too, with the launch of the book. Did you ever feel like you were annoying the entire world
Oh,
with your
yeah.
book? I feel that. I was afraid growing up. I was so afraid to knock on my neighbors' doors, like my friends who lived there, to see if they wanted to come outside and play. I hated the feeling of like I was being annoying or intrusive. I have a hard time believing that I am wanted or welcome. And so all of that seems to come up again and again and again. Anytime I step on stage, I have to push it down. Anytime I hop on a podcast, I got to push it down. Anytime I release a book, like it's just like, hey, that's not true. You know, and so to meet the lies with the truth, to meet it with grace, to meet it with these beautiful things like hope, right? And to say like, yeah, you may not be the best writer in the world, but your words can matter to some. And to step in confidence. Like that's been one of my prayers. Every morning I take our dog Pancake on a walk and I talk out loud to God. And one of the things I've been praying is like, can I just help me to be confident when I step into new things? Because I'm about to step into a lot of new things and I just want to show up like confident, not prideful, not without humility, but like this is who God created me to be. Like I am saved by grace. Life is hard and heavy and everything is not okay, but one day everything will be. And and I wrote a book and I hope you like it. But you don't have to buy it. But if you do, I would love it. You know, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so it's like those lies, man, they work their way into your whole like creative process and then everything that comes out of that. So I am constantly reminding myself of the truth. And the truth is, you're not a burden. You are also not for everybody, but you're not a burden.
And I think that's one of the devil's crafty tools, right? Is to be so binary, to be so like he wants us to swing the pendulum one way, right? And so it's a trap to think that you are a burden, right? And that you have nothing. But it's also a trap, and we see these, and we've talked about this on Substack, like you also see those people who are just all about promoting themselves, right? And so then you're like, well, I can't do that, right? And so the devil's like, yeah, so just you know, each extreme is a trap, right?
Yep.
And then there's like this beautiful invitation that the Lord invites us into. Is like, no, this is the sweet spot, right? And you're like, well, so how do I know it's the sweet spot? And he's just like, I'll let you know. Like, how do I know I'm doing too much? I'll let you know. How do I know I'm doing too? I'll let you know.
Yeah.
You know? And
it's the daily trust.
Yeah. Yeah. It's why I love the title of Eugene Peterson's book, A Long Obedience in the Same Direction.
It's that. And
it's just, ironically, though, you know, I feel like that book, if you read it, it's about the Psalms of Ascent and it's you know, it's exegetical and whatnot. And I'm kind of like, Eugene, I wanted you to write the book A Long Obedience in the Same Direction, really about a long obedience in the same direction. Like I want just a tome on just that idea and concept. So when you decided to write this book, is this a collection of new material? Is it a collection of stuff that you have brought together? Tell us a little bit about the structure and what we can expect in the book.
Yeah, so Getting Through What You're Going Through is a book of poems, essays, notes, reflections. Like if you follow my work online, it's very similar to that, you know. It was written really from like 2020 to about 2023, 2024, because, you know, it takes a little while for a book to be released into the world. And I've been having fun like reading back through it and being like, oh, that poem's in here. Like, this is, okay, cool. Like, that's great. It's been so long. I was writing it in this season, and the last 5 years have just been a lot, like, you know, for the entire world, for everyone who's been awake. It's been a lot. Not only was there like the pandemic and then a lot of like division and like wild stuff happening in the United States and the world, but like even in our own personal lives, like, you know, during the pandemic, my dad He almost died. My wife and I, we were diagnosed with unexplained infertility. We were walking through seasons of like grief and frustration and lies. And then God led us to adoption, and we now have a 2-year-old son named Judah. Like all these things, just kind of like ups and downs, inside and out. The last 5 years have just felt like a lot. And one thing that I've come to learn again and again is just like, it is a lot to be a human being. But we're all going through something, or many somethings. And I know at this moment, like right now, like I talk about it a little bit, like as a homeowner, like right now, I know that in my house, something is broken or about to break, and my life kind of feels the same way, like something is broken or about to break or about to happen. And like, I know that I'm going to need hope to get through it all.
It's funny you say that when I talk about my mental health and, being diagnosed with clinical anxiety and OCD. And, there's a conversation. I think it's gotten better in the church about being on medication and stuff. And I still take an SSRI. And I tell people, like, I don't necessarily take that for what I'm experiencing now. I take it for what I don't know is coming. Because I may feel great now, right?
Yeah.
But I know that that's helped me feel great now. It's not. I don't use it as a crutch. I don't use it as a magic elixir, right? I tell people if my anxiety is at an 8 or a 9 normally without my medication, my medication brings it down to a 4. It doesn't erase it. And at a 4, though, I can use my prefrontal cortex that the Lord has given me. I can meditate on Scripture. I can do those things. I can implement those spiritual tools that get at the heart of the matter. But when my brain is all misfiring, I can't do that, right?
Yeah.
And so I use it for what's coming, what the unexpected things, the time my stepdad died in 2020, the time my sister died in 2018, my son, being diagnosed with a tumor that ended up being benign. Now, ironically, that was a lot, and I started to drink that away. Like I didn't return to those tools. But I think what's really helpful for us to remember is that the Lord has given us things. The Lord has given us tools like lament and these things that like prepare us, hopefully, or give us tools for not necessarily just what's here and now, but for what's coming, Yeah. I'm curious, the book titled is, Getting Through What You're Going Through. And is there kind of like an overarching idea, thought, belief, truth that you feel like undergirds, like, how do we get through, these things? How do we get through what we're going through that seems so insurmountable?
If you want to boil it all down to one word, it's hope. How else do we get through today and into tomorrow? For me, like the way that I like to define hope is that hope is the full assurance that God is with me in this and will get me through this. Like I'm not forgotten. I'm not alone. This is a lot, but I'm not facing it by myself. One of the things I get to do is, speak at all these different places and get to know people. And you know what it's like when you share your story and people will come and share their story with you. And the number of heartbreaking stories that I've heard of loss, of grief, of death, of uncertainty, of unexpected things happening that just like wreck your family and threaten your faith. Like it's a lot. And I know I already said it, like it is just a lot to be a human being. And yet hope, it remains throughout it all. And hope is not this like, hope is not rude. Hope is not like loud. It's not trying to take up the whole entire table. It's pulling up a chair. Yeah, it is fierce. And it is ready to step into the hard and the heavy and the darkness. But hope is not like, it's not trying to lie to you. It's not a trick. Like hope is not a trick. And so for me, when the heaviness comes, or when the lies arrive, or when life becomes what I don't want it to be, Like, that's not like hope's way of being like, all right, I'm out of here. I will be back when everything is good. That's not what, like, hope does not know how to leave. It just stays and quietly whispers, everything's going to be okay. I know everything isn't okay right now. Everything's going to be okay.
What's your encouragement to people who feel or who say, yeah, I've lost hope? Like time and time again, I've been disappointed. Time and time again, it's just, because I think in some ways I didn't know how to sit with some of that hopelessness, that helplessness. I didn't know how to sit with some of the, I didn't know how to sit with my own thoughts. I thought I did. And for a while I was able to, and I had all the strategies. And then I hit the hardest time in my life, harder than what I saw coming, right? Which even medication couldn't help me with at the time, right? And I just was like, well, the easy thing to do, alcohol is effective and successful. If it wasn't, people like me wouldn't turn to it, right?
Yeah.
So what do you say to those people who are like, yeah, but Tanner, like, I've lost hope. I've lost hope. I don't know how to get it back.
Well, first I would tell them that I hate it for them. Like I'm in the book, I have a short little writing. Like I told a friend, what my wife and I were going through, and I felt hopeless. And he didn't Jeremiah 29:11 me. He didn't just like pat me on the back. He didn't try to tell me that, oh, I had friends who were diagnosed with unexplained infertility and then they got pregnant, so it'll probably happen to you. He didn't tell me it could be worse, which is never a good response to anybody. He told me, like, I hate this for you. And that's often one of the things that I've been leading with when people tell me they feel hopeless or what's happened. And like, I do. And I don't like bad things. I hate this for you. And then at the right time, or when possible, I would tell them that hope has not left you. Like you've not pushed it away. Your situation or circumstance, feelings have not pushed it away. Your guilt, your sin, however you want to enter your story into that. Like hope does not know how to leave you. Walks with you. It guides you. And then it's talking about some of the hard things that you and I have had to do, of being honest about where we're at, asking for help, slowing down, saying no to things that we should say no to, and saying yes to the things that are going to bring us back to life. And I think a lot of it is with being with other people and spending time in prayer.
I think you have a poem that you wanted to share with us that is a little bit on those lines, right?
Yeah, this is one of my faves from the book. It's titled What I Mean Is, and it goes like this. When I say everything will be okay, what I mean is, in the end, everything will be okay. Along the way, it will not all be okay. You already know this. There will be sadness and death and failure. There will be brokenness and moments that feel beyond repair. There will be pain and fear and unwanted changes to your story. There will be seasons when you feel far from okay and moments when you wonder if the last line of this poem is true. Of the little I know, one thing I know for sure. Through it all, there is hope. And hope invites us to lean in and hold fast to a light that continues to last. It moves us to love and dream and give and continue and stay for another day. It leads us to pray and forgive and cling to grace and believe the last line of this poem is true. Everything will be okay, even if everything isn't okay today.
My aunt works with Alzheimer's and dementia patients for the county that she lives in Wisconsin. And I remember her talking to me and walking me through a little bit about what she does. And she said one of, if not the most effective things that she says to families of people who have someone that is diagnosed with Alzheimer's or dementia, which is really hard, right?
Yeah.
Is there's a line that she uses and an idea that she communicates, and it is, there is another side. There is another side to this. You will get through this, and there is another side. And I just can't tell you how impactful that's been for me, right?
Yeah.
Because I think when we're going through this stuff, we don't see the other side. And we need people to remind us. We need scripture to remind us, right? I mean, even like literally, how many times Jesus talks about going to the other side, right? And to the point of your beautiful poem, even, it's like from going from one side to the other, there's still storms in the middle, right? Like Jesus had to calm those storms. Mm-hmm. And so it's not just this, it's not this like Alaskan 7-day beautiful cruise, right?
Sounds nice.
Yeah. It's like we might die. Like,
welcome to the wilderness.
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I love that poem because it reminds me there is another side.
Yeah, there's another side. There is more. And no, it's not going to go the way that you want it to go. And it's going to be hard. And it's going to be rough. And yet, the invitation is to continue.
Mm-hmm. How do you think we can best sit with people going through tough times? You know, I think you talked about your friend there, and that really stood out to me, right? I think so many times in my life, there's been that person who comes with a trite phrase, a trite verse, the Jeremiah 29:11s, the, cast all your cares upon him, for he cares about you. You do not be anxious about anything. And unfortunately, for a long time, that really turned me off to those verses. But there is deep, rich depth to those verses that's important.
Yeah, definitely.
But because they were thrown out as trite phrases and ways that people they just didn't want to enter in with me. So then they just threw that. How do we sit with people going through difficulty?
We'll be right back after this.
I think sitting with them is good, because when you're sitting with them, you're hopefully not trying to fix them. This is not, like, a lot of this stuff is not something that can be fixed. It can be loved. Can be cared for. But, like, you're not going to fix it right now. What question can you ask them? I love the question of, like, how are you doing, really? And, like, I want to know the answer, and then to show up again and again. It's, if you could, what do you want this to look like? How do you see this going? I think a lot of times, I talked about this a little bit earlier, like I would feel like a burden, and to remind people that they are not even close. And so tell me the thing that you're going through. Tell me what you want this to look like on the other side. Tell me the things that, like, what are the things that you're afraid of and hopeful for? And then to come back again and again. I think one of the big things is we don't want to tell people something because we'll scare them away, or they'll see us differently. And I think what a beautiful thing it is to let other people see you differently.
As you're saying that, I think the question that really popped in my head that can be powerful and important, again, my ultimate addiction wasn't to alcohol. My addiction was to escapism, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I just didn't know how during that really hard time to sit with myself.
Yeah.
And I wonder if we would ask people more, not why are you doing this, which is not really, you're not really wanting to know why, right? Why do you keep doing this, right? But it's, what are you scared of? Like, what is the fear that's underlying and driving you to do the things you don't want to do? To say the things you don't want to say, to believe the things you don't really want to believe. Like, what are you scared of? Even in what you're talking about, I just wonder, is it fear of rejection?
Yeah.
When you're like, I don't want to bother anyone. Well, if you're not, I don't want to bother people because then they can't reject me, know? And that's part of what I've struggled with in the past, right? I don't want to be rejected. I've been rejected from a very young age. And so if you don't open up to people, if you don't put yourself out there, you can't be rejected.
It's so also really hard. And you and I probably both know this. It's really hard to grow too, or to experience a deeper level or understanding of love.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good question, man. What are you scared of?
Yeah, what are you scared of? Not in a how you ask that question. Well, what are you
Yeah.
scared of? Is very different than,
Yeah.
hey man, like what are you scared of?
Let's walk through all of this together, because I know you're scared of. We're all scared of something, especially when you feel like you're at rock bottom or life is not the way that you want it to be. And so what is it that you're scared of? And well, let's play it out together. I think having someone to process life with, and then someone who can pray for you or with you, or just kind of sit there and hold whatever it is that you're handing them, to create a safe and space, a space just to talk. Like that's a gift. Where like the best gift that you can give somebody is your time and attention.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be able to do that in a season of fear, uncertainty, when you're scared, like what a gift. And you get to be a gift for other people, because there are people who are listening to this podcast who are like, I can't help, or I need help.
Yeah.
Right. And most of us are probably both.
And I think maybe if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't have that person, I think one of the things that I want to encourage you is that's why it's important to press into biblical community. And you say, well, I am, and I still don't have anyone. I get it, right?
Yeah.
The family of God is not perfect. But also I want to just encourage people, like that's when I first started coming out of that rock bottom moment, it's not that I didn't have anyone, it's that I didn't feel comfortable, right?
Yeah.
And part of that was me. It's not that they were bad friends. And so guess what? I went to a Christian therapist and I paid her $150 a week to be that person, you know? And it's like, and I just love at one point she said, John, I want to be the person that you can process these things and these thoughts with, And it's like, great, and do I have that in other friendships since then? And yes. Right. But part of, I think a lot of people think that going to therapy is about getting advice. And I think some of the worst therapists are the ones that try to give you advice. They let you process, right? They lead you to truth.
Yep.
By being
they
self-reflective.
help you see what you're so close to.
Right.
Pull it back a little bit, give you some space to breathe and to really be like, okay, here's what you're going through.
Yeah.
Like, oh, or this is what you went through.
Yeah.
This is the thing that is beneath the thing.
Yes. And invite Jesus into that,
Yeah. Yeah.
As we start to wrap up here, I think what is, you talked about hope, and maybe that's the answer here, but what is that one thing you're hoping that people take from this collection of poems and essays?
That they're not forgotten or alone, that good is on the way. But truly that they would find a little bit of peace in the words, be comforted by the things that I've written and shared, and know that hope is real and that they can get through what they're going through. And yeah, life is not going to go the way that you think it's going to go, or the plan is not going to go to plan, and yet you are loved by God and you are sent by Him. Yeah.
I want to encourage you, if you're listening to this, one of the ways and reasons, I think I said this earlier, that I got in trouble, right, is that I turned to cheap forms of escapism. And what I love about this book and what I love about your work is it is a costly form of escapism. And what I mean by that is that it forces us to slow down. It forces us to think. It forces us to sit with fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And I want to encourage you, if you're listening to this, to pick up Tanner's book and slow down, right? Don't reach for the cheap, easy fix, right? Yeah. Lament, struggle, think, those type of things, which may be hard in the short term, but have so many effects, so many good effects in the long term.
Yeah, it's inviting you to go through it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I talked about
don't try to skip to the good part.
Yeah,
you got to go.
Right.
You got to go through it. Yeah.
Right. Screw that Instagram. Right.
Yeah.
Not can we skip to the good part. Right. I think, and I've been wanting to write this post and I haven't yet, but really for me, I think I had this realization a couple months back that addiction for me was just a perpetual adolescence. You think about it like when we're younger, like we don't want to have anything uncomfortable, right? Even from before we can talk, right?
Yep.
I'm feeling hungry, so I'm going to scream out. I don't want that, right? I don't want to be hungry. My 7-year-old, right? My 10-year-old even, like when they encounter something difficult that they don't want, right? It's, I want to avoid that, right? And it's addiction for like adulthood is learning to sit with the uncomfortable things and not just trying to just like be like, whack-a-mole where you're just trying to whack away the uncomfortableness, right?
Yep.
And I think your book is an invitation to that and a partner in that. So thank you for writing it. Where can people go to learn more about you, to pick up the book, to follow what you're doing?
Yeah, on my website is writtentospeak.com. On Instagram, you just type in Tanner Olson, or on Substack. And then you can get the book on Amazon or maybe at a local bookstore. Again, the book is titled Getting Through What You're Going Through. It is an orange book with a orange on the cover. It is very orange. And I really do hope that it brings you some hope. Or if you know somebody who's just going through a hard time, like I think this is a book that is more than okay to hand them.
Explain the cover real quick, because you're right. It's very orange. It's an
very
orange being squeezed. There's juice coming out of the orange. Explain the cover.
Yes. I'm a Florida boy, right? So I grew up in Florida, so oranges, obviously. But there's a couple of writings and poems in there. There's a story about how my mom and I used to pick oranges and make orange juice. So there's something in there about that. And then there's a poem titled Squeeze Me Out. And I feel like a lot of like when you feel like you're going through when you're getting through what you're going through, you feel like you're being squeezed out. But it is like this, you are being squeezed, like something good is happening. It hurts, and yet something good is happening, and you are left with something sweet and better than when you began. And so there's just a lot of like imagery in my head that pops up when I think about getting through what you're going through, and realizing and seeing that all of this is a gift, and sometimes it takes years to see that.
I love that. Yeah. Yes, thank you,
Cool.
Tanner Olson. My friend, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for
I
having
can't
me.
wait to see what this book does. I can't wait to see what you do. Tanner's going on tour, and if he is in your area, please, go see him. I always think it's really important to hear, like even when you read that poem, right? I think I may have read that differently, and in some ways that's great. But I think to hear how the author intended every pause, every inflection. And so when Tanner's on tour and he reads some of these poems, I think it'd be great to see him. So check him out. Thank you so much, Tanner.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
Here's the question that popped up to me after that interview. It's this: do you have the faith to sit with yourself? Do you have the faith to sit with your own thoughts? Do you have the faith to sit through what you're going through? And I think like I grew up in a tradition that was all about, if you have faith as a mustard seed, you can move mountains, which, by the way, just a little like this, one of the things I learned in seminary, that was like a phrase. That was like an idiom back in the day, right? So like we take that as, or so many people take that as very literal, and like it was a, don't put the cart before the horse, don't, it was one of those type of sayings, right? So we want to be spurred on to have the faith that can move mountains, but I just wonder if we really focused on having the faith to sit with ourselves. I know that I didn't. My faith was not one that could trust God to drown out the noise and the lies. And so I turned to alcohol to drown out the noise and the lies. And so I just want to encourage you, pick up Tanner's book, because I really do, like I said at the end there, I think it will encourage you to have a means of sitting with yourself, a means of thinking through, a means of combating the lies that isn't cheap, that is costly, and yet, when Dietrich Bonhoeffer talks about costly grace, like the best things cost us something. I will not sacrifice that which costs me nothing, David said. And I think so many times we're looking for a cheap way. We're looking for shortcuts. And what the Lord is inviting us into is to sit and be with him and to give something up, right? And so I think Tanner's book definitely will help us do that. So pick it up. Let me know what you think. If there's one thing in this podcast that encouraged you, I just ask that you would send it to someone. I'm not asking you to like, share, subscribe. You can do all those things if you want. What I'm asking you to do is to share it with one person. And I want to continue to spread the message of hope that Tanner talks about. Love you all. Thank you to our partner, Life Audio, lifeaudio.com. You can listen to some other great podcasts. We will see you here next week.